Hello, hello! Welcome to GAMbIT Magazine's Shady Ladies. We are the Shady Ladies, Samir Roy and
Margot Poupard,
here to talk RuPaul's Drag Race for GAMbIT Magazine, as we want to do every week for the rest of my life, because I don't know how I'm going to survive when this show is over, or how they're ever going to top what just happened.
The only other thing we like to talk about ad nauseum is John Waters, so just, we have a lot to talk about.
I guess I should say that, if this episode was the last dick on Earth, I would suck it, whether or not I was suffocating and there was oxygen in its balls.
That's where the oxygen went?
Well, in that line, it's from Female Trouble, remember? Like, my favorite line from that movie, which I was sad that they didn't put any variation of in this challenge for this week. One of my favorite lines ever was, "I wouldn't suck your lousy dick if I was suffocating. There was oxygen in your balls."
Well, your spin on it.
That's what a stepdaughter tells her stepfather.
Well, your spin on it made it feel truly original.
Well, thank you.
For a second, I was like, that sounds familiar, but it's still really funny. And I do want to know how the oxygen got into this dude's balls and why.
I don't know.
And hopefully this episode, it gave us both so much needed life to carry on for the rest of the week at least.
For real, I felt so energized, the next day at my office job was, a good day for me. Because I was just like, how can I be unhappy about anything when I got, so many things in one that I've been wanting forever. I love Drag Race. I've loved it ever since it first started. I love John Waters since the very first time I saw Serial Mom as a child, thanks to a wonderful mother who had really perfectly timed poor judgment on what she should allow her children to watch. Because we watch it as a family.
No, it's just so funny that you were introduced to Serial Mom by your mom, and that was the first Waters movie you saw. And my mom and I watched Serial Mom together as well, and that was the first Waters movie I fell in love with. I fucking love that movie.
I loved my mother.
I know we watched it together a bunch of times because we can't get enough, and so we'll just put on DVD commentary, because if you never fucking watched a movie with John Waters DVD commentary, stop what you're doing right now. It's okay if you want to put this on pause.
When you're done listening to this,
listen to his commentary on Mommy Dearest. It is some of the funniest, it's the best way to ever watch that movie. That movie's fantastic and fabulous and flawless on its own, and a bunch of other F words that I'm probably leaving out. But with John Waters' commentary, it just takes it to another level. It's hysterical. And just his general commentary, your life is just brightened by it.
I'm like, oh my god, just the nonchalance with which he says some things, and just the stories that he's, experienced in his very interesting lifetime. And just for one, he's a model for anybody who just has the desire and the chutzpah to really go out and do something, because he really just did it. He made his own career. He was not made by Hollywood. He was not made by anyone but himself and his friends, and just took his own genuine good bad taste to the movies in a way that no one has ever seen before and no one's going to see since, and there's nothing like it still to this day. I'm still waiting for his Christmas movie that which is never going to get produced, it seems, Fruitcake.
Oh.
Been talking about it forever. The last thing he did was a Dirty Shame.
For a second I thought you meant it sounded a little bit more plausible maybe, but it was a documentary following his infamous Christmas tour that he always does. That would be something I would want to watch. So my ears perked up.
Anything at all.
Because also the I Am Divine documentary, which I'm not sure if RuPaul's Drag Race touched upon it or not, but it was featured in some all-time best docs streaming to Netflix list recently, is also a fantastic piece of work.
I got to see that when it was at the I think the Frameline Festival, in the LGBT Film Festival in San Francisco. And the director of the film was there, and he was like, I just want to tell you all, I love this festival so much, and I really wanted to be here for this world premiere of this movie with you, that I did not go to John Waters' Pauper's Party, and, what's the other gay mecca of the East Coast? Not Fire Island, Provincetown. Providence. Okay, maybe it is there too.
No, but you're right.
Provincetown. He's I did not go to John Waters' Pauper's Party, specifically because I wanted to present this movie to you. And so I've been waiting ever since I first saw the show. I'm Divine was such a huge... Obviously, RuPaul was right when he called her the first drag superstar ever, really. And I'm okay, I don't know why the show hasn't done anything with that since it started. I'm this is the 7th season, and they still haven't really, done a big thing about
I guess that's
Divine
true.
yet.
And seeing the way that the scenes played out, I was surprised that they had never really done an homage. I was trying to rack my brain to anything that would have even slightly hinted at being touched by Divine, but I couldn't think of anything, and you would be the Drag Race encyclopedia, so you would know better than me, but I was really trying hard to think of any episode that was inspired by Divine, just even in the slightest way possible. And it's true, can't remember any of them in the last 7 years that have paid homage this way.
And this time
it's kind of surprising, and I don't know if RuPaul was waiting for John Waters' blessing, so to speak.
Blessing, and maybe the budget to book John Waters. Because John Waters he took it to like every college that rejected him, as he always says. He's like, they wouldn't let me in, I didn't go to any of them, but now I charge a shit ton of money for me to speak at them. And he's, like, very aggressive about, like, no, I am not, like, lowering my fee for anybody, no matter how much I love you or like you. This is what I'm worth, and this is what I get paid, and I'm going to continue to ask for this, and you're going to have to come up with it if you want me. Which is kind of surprising. Like, how is he going to do the Green Apple Books talk in San Francisco? I mean, I guess we have to buy tickets, so that'll help. We're paying his booking fee. But nonetheless, I will still be there for that. But yeah, it was just, like... maybe that was the thing. Maybe this year they're like, you know what, we're really going to spend the money on this. But they had a lot of pretty high-profile stars this season. Mm-hmm. So I'm like... And
a lot of those high-profile stars seem like really big fans of the show, so maybe they were doing a favor.
That's true. A lot of them are, because it feels like just as long as the list is for queens trying to get on the show, there's like another list of the celebrities who want to be a guest on Drag Race.
Totally.
There's only so much room, and there's like probably a long list of those people like, oh my god, I love the show, I have to be on it. You have to find some reason for me to be on it. I'm like, they found a reason for Leanne Rimes to be there. So, there's got to be some other people.
She's cheap, I think.
Maybe. But I thought it was his like little nod of solidarity last week to be like, hey, even though you got a lot of flack for that, how you got into your current relationship, you're still welcome at Drag Race. But nonetheless, obviously, like, the cream of the crop this entire season, guest-wise, was John Waters. And, of course, it had to be a John Waters-centric episode. And, of course, they had to reference Divine if they're going to have anything with John Waters, because Divine is really, like you said, the superstar of drag before there was one.
And in a certain sense, I would say that their names are synonymous, almost.
Yeah, like, Divine Trash. And, like there's great documentaries about just their working relationship. Like, they were, like, kind of like, like one of those famous, like, director. It was like the drag version of Marlene Dietrich and Joseph von Sternberg, really. Like, von Sternberg, like, kind of created Marlene as we knew her on film. And in a way, John Waters really created the Divine that we know on film. But it was, like, a mutual, like, creation. Like, they both contributed to it. And I don't think that it would have been complete without one or the other.
Oh, yeah, they had a pretty symbiotic relationship, I think.
Of course, Divine first became Divine all the time after coming to San Francisco. So back in the early 70s, when Divine flew to San Francisco as Divine, like, in drag, I think that was the first time he'd ever quite done that. And he got off the plane, and, like, he became part of, like, this vibe in San Francisco drag, and, like, it was just, like, that inspired him to always be Divine. So Glenn Milstead, which was Divine's real name, became Divine forever after his trip to San Francisco. And ever since then has been like an inspiration to other drag queens, because everyone's like, well, I want to be that big a star. I want to have directors make movies centered around me. I want to go to do a whole freaking sell out a show and do a concert of like crazy weird music that I want to do. Like, Divine did everything. Like, did theater, even did other films outside of just, being in John Waters films occasionally, too, like, Divine was a true star who could, the name itself was a brand, it was complete, and it was, like, a tragic early death.
Well, that's what RuPaul means when she says that she was, like, the first drag superstar, because she was the first drag queen that could make a brand and really sell it, and made the dream, like, possible. When you juxtapose that with a conversation between Ginger and Kennedy, who were talking about how they don't have a retirement and how they have a retirement fund, which is, it's not anything to be ashamed of. I think that a lot of people's parents are in a similar position. I know I'm not really even thinking about it. So it's no fault to them, but how Kennedy struggles to pay bills just trying to do drag full time and how hard it is. So juxtaposing those two things, it's like she is the aspiration of what you want and set kind of like the bar of like making drag queen a brand that you can sell out theaters and that it's like an entertainment art form, sort of like obviously a step above like performance art.
Definitely. I mean, there's something entertaining about it.
Which, like, I think that, well, yeah, exactly. It's not nonsensical bullshit where you have to sit across from someone in a seat while they hold your hands and stare at you in the eyes. But I could see how some people might want to put that in that box when they first encounter drag queens.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And I was not disappointed. Even the worst of the 3 videos wasn't that bad. It was just that Ginger channeled Edith Massey in her video so well, and Katya was so hilarious as the mom. Like, you know, I think that they also chose these scenes to do for this challenge really well. Like, they chose the right moments. Mm-hmm. They chose the Christmas tree coming down on Divine's mother, on Dawn Davenport's mother in Female Trouble. They chose the dog shit eating scene from Pink Flamingos. And then they chose, obviously, Edith Massey in her Lane Bryant undergarments, in the playpen, in the mobile home, in Pink Flamingos. Like, it is kind of, you know, they stuck to the first 2 feature films. Mm-hmm. You know, there wasn't enough of them to do more. You know, but I was like, because he wasn't even going to direct them, it turned out he did not direct these scenes, which I really thought he was going to.
Yeah, I mean, beyond being really
would.
Disappointed that there wasn't more John Waters beyond just the final runway and the judging and the lip sync. Well, I mean, he was just there. I wanted to hear more John Waters quips, and I would have loved to have seen him direct it. I mean, I like Michelle Visage, and I know that she has at least like a big music background, but I would have really loved to have seen John Waters there. I mean, I understand Lucian being there because it is a music, and they were singing live, which I thought was crazy.
Yeah.
With a live pianist just accompanying them, which when Kennedy
Lady J.
Yeah, when Kennedy was like, it's kind of throwing me off, I'm like, it would kind of throw me off too for some odd reason.
Which was funny because when they were discussing who was going to do what, when they got paired up, because they paired themselves up, and then obviously all the outcasts ended up in a group together off to the side, and they're the ones who obviously did not do the best. But Kennedy...
That was the saddest coming together of 3 people I've ever seen.
I know, they were like, oh, nobody wants us.
And like everybody like hugged, and I was like, that looks really uncomfortable.
Poor things. But why was Katya with Kennedy to begin with? Like, I guess just Ginger like chose Trixie. Like, they were like, oh, I'm like, okay, well, Katya was like, who am I going to choose from this group? Well, I guess it's going to be Kennedy. Because they seem to love Kennedy no matter how bad she is at so many other things. They still love her no matter what. You know, I feel so bad. I feel like a shitty person because every week I'm always ragging on Kennedy. And it's not like she's a bad person.
I just mean like we can rephrase it as she'll give the same performance.
Yeah, and it's always going to be kind of lackluster and not all there. I'm like, maybe in her actual, like, performances on stages, she's better.
But I will say that she's a solid, like, you can count on her to hold a tune, but you can't count on her to, like, remember all of her lines.
That has never happened. She never remembers, and that usually sinks people in this show. And it hasn't sunk her at all. And I'm like, she's been like that in every single challenge that requires her to remember lines. But...
they could just be editing it
So this was like, oh, well, she can sing, so obviously she was like, oh, well, can you sing, Katya? Then I should be Divine, because I can sing. And I was like, well, it's not going to be really about how good the singing is, technically. It's really going to be about the whole performance, Kennedy. And frankly, I trust Katya to better capture the essence of Dawn Davenport in a musical number, in a comedy musical number, in this moment, than I trust you, because you give the same performance every time. And even on the runway with her ugly look, I'm like, wasn't that her, like, old lady drag dress, which they called her out on?
Yeah.
And she still wasn't in the bottom, but she was with Katya, and Katya really, I think, lifted that team up even more, because she stole the show. She stole that scene, being the mom who was, like, not the entertaining one in that scene. I mean, she was so funny because she was so ridiculous in the film, but really the star of that scene is Divine. And Kennedy was like, oh, well, like, I think Kennedy probably didn't want Katya to have the star role, but Katya's like, well, I'm still going to steal this scene with this mom role. And she did. She totally took it to another place. She made it her own. She didn't just parrot what we already knew about the scene. And Kennedy was just kind of like, her singing wasn't that great.
No, it wasn't. I actually have to say I hated the way she sung Cha-Cha Heels,
so she was
like the main refrain
like,
in the whole song. It drove me nuts. But to play devil's advocate, I don't necessarily... I think that Katya actually does better when the pressure's off of her and she's not the star. And to a certain extent, I think her kind of fudging up that initial challenge, the lip sync, the airline stewardess one, I think that kind of makes people like weary of her like singing, like holding a long
Taking
song or remembering a long piece.
Having the most lines.
So having the pressure off of her allows her to actually like dig deep and make the character funny. Whereas like you already know Kennedy's gonna phone it in. But to another extent, and this is my complaint for the people that came off as less obvious John Waters fans, is that Kennedy gave like a Kennedy performance, much like I think that Pearl, Miss Fame, and Violet's team just kind of like gave this like vague on the surface kind of performance because they weren't able to dig in because they're not really fans. Like maybe they're
I felt Violet. I get what you're saying. I did feel Violet kind of was actually the best of them as Divine. Like she, even though she was so skinny, like even the illusion of Divine was like almost there, like here and there. Like there was some really good moments in there. I feel like she's someone who actually has watched those movies. I feel like Pearl would be the kind of person who would have too, but Pearl's also really not good at acting challenges. Yeah. Mostly. Like, she surprises us when she's really good at...
No, I think Pearl understood the material the most, but you wouldn't have known it by watching her performance.
And it was kind of sad because, like, you know, you could tell she was kind of there, but you caught her eyes, like, constantly glancing towards the camera, towards her director, Michelle and Lucien. Like, you could see her, like, looking up, looking back, looking up, looking back at... Looking up, looking back, looking up, looking back at her co-stars. I'm like, you know, like, it's clear that she's nervous, like, when she's looking at them, she's better. She's, like, in the scene. I'm like, just stay focused in that space. Quit looking back out over here and taking yourself out of the scene, like, every second. Like, if you could just stay in it, like, who knows how good it could have been. Well, but she's always had this kind of issue in these types of challenges.
I mean, on one hand, you could blame it on Miss Fame not being, like, the best acting partner, especially if you're supposed to be playing Devil and Angel. But to be fair also to Violet, I think her performance came across the best because she actually listened to the things that Pearl was saying, as opposed to Miss Fame, who Pearl has to play off of, who had to stop and start and maybe have taken a realness moment or whatever, and God knows what else went into having to shoot that scene. Because
I know, it's like, who knows if they just got tired of putting in scenes of Fame talking a lot. Was there another one? We don't know. There probably was. I can't imagine that there wasn't. It's just like that's how she always is. All the time.
Or Miss Fame just like wore out Pearl with all like the run-throughs and her paragraph long questions and all that other stuff. Like when she was like, I think we just like sound too much alike, but like me going lower doesn't fix the problem, but like let's talk about it some more. And Pearl's like, can we please just run it through?
I know, it was like, okay, just please. Like it was just like, it was so written on the walls that like this was Miss Fame's stop. Like this is where she gets off the train. Mm-hmm. You know, it was right away from the beginning. Like, I would totally flash back to Coco Montrese from season 5 when she was just like, you know, it's just like, if I wore something like that down the runway that I just bought right off the rack, you know, they would have torn me to shreds. I'm like, that. So she said something to that effect because, like, that just reminded me of when Coco told Jinx, she's like, I know some people are going down the runway in complete bullshit, and if I did that, they would tear me to shreds. And I'm like, and then you went home, like, the next episode. Not that one, but the next one, and I'm like, oh, Miss Fame, that is like kiss of death. It's kind of like when Gillian Jacobs, the one from Community, yes, she was a guest last season on Drag Race and the Snatch Game episode, and she was saying like every time I've heard a queen say I've got to stay true to my drag, they usually go home like right away, and it's like it's one of those patterns. It's like, so you know when an editor gets that line, like, oh my god, thank you, you said it in the challenge where you get eliminated, you made my job so easy this week. I love you, Miss Fame.
I should be able to get home before midnight.
Yes, I know, and I won't have to eat cereal for dinner again.
Exactly. They're probably so sad now that Miss Fame's gotten booted off because they've probably just been waiting.
She gave them so much material. They were going to town with her.
So many red flags. I mean, I don't know if at a certain point they're like, we're just going to cull through all the bullshit she says and just cut out all the red flag signals just to fuck with everybody.
Mark. Oh my god, she's still talking.
Oh, I can't even imagine. It feels so bad for whoever to sit through that raw footage.
Like, because they probably had to listen to a lot of talking before she got to that line. Like, a lot of talking.
But I also wonder how many interview hours are logged of Miss Fame making chicken noises.
They're like, okay, we've got a half hour, an hour and a half later, so I'm still trying to get out of my thinker. I'm like,
she'll be fine.
She will be fine. I think she will, because seriously, like, I do have to give her props, because the look was flawless. Mm-hmm. And there's a genuine, like, theme with the look, like her regular, like, the Space Queen idea, like, I think it's really well executed and really stunning. But you just knew that she needed, like, the performance aspect, because it was really painful even in the beginning with the mini challenge. But the library finally opened. Finally, I was getting to think, like, are they just going to skip this? It's been a while. This should have happened already. And it's like, maybe that's what they were saving Trixie for, because Trixie won it, and she was the funniest with it. She had
really
the best lines. Katya was great. Violet was actually pretty good.
American apparently not. That totally got me.
But, like, Miss Fame was... That was disastrous.
Oh, that was the worst.
And she was like, literally, it was like 5 minutes before that, she said something pretty damn funny that I laughed at, like, in the show, and I'm like, what happened?
I don't know. I think really, like, the on the spot, she just sings.
When she actually has, like, okay,
I think all eyes on Miss Fame is the worst thing that could happen to her sometimes.
Or just having the stage to, like, do this one specific thing. It's like, oh my god, if it's not, like, just naturally occurring out of her, she can't do it. So... It's, oh my god, and it's so painful because, like I said, in between them, we see, like, this funniness, and, like, when they just in the moment has to be funny, she can do it. Like, that line in her Despy Award speech is like, I'd like to thank the tapeworm that snatched my body and the man upstairs for the lighting, thanks. Like, you know, just, like, that was fucking, I'm like, did she write that herself? Like, who wrote that for her? Did she just come up with that? Like, she actually is funny. Like, she's shown it, and it's like, you just want her to do it when it, like, really matters, like, in the challenge, and that was, like, the worst of all of them. The worst. It was so sad. I'm like, there's always somebody who's really bad. Like, every season, somebody's terrible at this challenge. And I guess we should have anticipated it would have been her.
It was like a car crash met a train wreck, met an overturned semi, and all of it exploded in a Michael Bay movie, and then...
At an orphanage.
Well, and then Transformers come down to Earth and just kill everybody. That's how bad it was.
It was disaster.
You couldn't get even a pity, like, from anyone.
No,
it was because...
They were all like they were, even the look on their faces were like, oh.
And she just kept digging a bigger and bigger hole when she was trying to be shady.
And that was edited down.
Like, yeah. She'd be like, Ginger, you're so round. You're, like, a round person. You're like, oh my god, dude, stop. That was actually better than what she did, honestly. And that was, I don't know what that was.
So sad. So sad. I was like,
can we move on?
We have to move on to, oh my god, like, I've been like, there's just so many John Waters moments that, like, I was like, what else do you think you would have liked to have seen them do a musical number of? And this, like, I'm trying to think, like, what else, because obviously I felt like there should have been something from Polyester with all the Odorama things. I felt like that would have been funny. Obviously Hairspray, there was no Hairspray one.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised.
That would have been so fun.
I thought it was just totally obvious, and I thought at least Ginger would turn that out. I thought she'd be hysterical, but I was surprised that they left that out. But I have to say, RuPaul's runway sweater dress thing with her grabbing her own boob.
Oh, that was so good.
I love
the wig. That Jasmine Masters in blonde wig.
It was like some Lisa Frank collection that I need to get my hands on.
That was straight up so...
It was amazing.
That was ugly beautiful in the best possible way.
Oh, I mean...
Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, Pearl's look.
That was actually gorgeous. I loved that dress.
Yeah, let's just jump right into, like, the final runway.
That was straight up Harajuku girl.
Yeah, she looked like she could be, like, modeling Gwen Stefani's line or something. Like those Fruits books from Tashin that you used to see in the art section at the bookstore. Nobody ever understands when I make a reference to Fruits except you.
Oh my god, somebody. That's why we're doing this together. Because
I should have known you worked at Borders. Of course you know what Fruits is.
Oh my god, 6 years, y'all. I loved that job when it was cool.
Y'all remember Borders?
Yeah, it's gone now. It's because they didn't listen to the workers. Mm-hmm.
Rise up!
Oh, that's the clapper. I'm sorry.
We both
The lights went out everywhere. No. I always secretly hope that I go into people's houses and just... in hopes that, like, somebody has a clapper and I'll turn off everything.
You don't know anyone that's old enough to do that. I've
never met anyone who has one, old or young, but it's a dream of mine that I've never made a reality somehow. Can you do that for my birthday?
Oh, yeah. That's actually... Well, if they still sell it?
Somewhere. I swear there's an infomercial somewhere. It's not on RuPaul's Drag Race, although I was surprised. I was watching a clip of the show, this week's episode, on the website. One of the ads was for Papa John's. Since when is Papa John's advertising for... I feel like that must be like some gay person at Logo is like revenge against Papa John's because Logo is like part of Viacom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sure Papa John's probably has a connection
at
a higher level. So it's like, oh, your networks can use these ads. And it's like, you know what? You're anti-gay, you're anti-worker, you're anti-raising the minimum wage, you're anti-being a good person, apparently, Mr. Papa John. We're going to use you to advertise the thing you probably hate the most on all our networks, and that is Drag Race.
He's too busy making, like,
if we could air gay porn and use your ads in the middle of it, we would, but unfortunately, we can't do that. Well,
he's just too busy making, like, terrible football pizzas with Eli Manning or something like that.
That chili cheese Frito pizza was quite an interesting concoction that should never happen again.
They're like the Taco Bell of fast food pizza.
But I like Taco Bell.
Well, it's still not a compliment. I can't help it.
It's like a drug, you know. It's like McDonald's, like when you drive by and smell fries. And
both of those places made me sick, so, you know,
yeah, they do. When you get to be an adult and, like, you don't have that resilient immune system that you had as a child, you suddenly eat the food and then you realize what it's doing to your body because you can feel every step of it. And you're like, oh my God, I've just abused myself with this cuisine, this quote-unquote cuisine. But nonetheless, I was really surprised to see a Papa John's ad in a RuPaul's Drag Race video and anything. Like, I was just like, wow, this is what the ad in between, like, before the next scene is? This? Okay. Kudos to somebody somewhere for that, because it was just a shock to me. Nonetheless, the runway, because we were talking about ugly things.
No, yeah. And,
you know,
not only are their pizza and their owner and all of their horrible outlooks on life disgusting and ugly, so were the dresses this week. Well, some more so than others. So Pearl looked not ugly at all, even though I think her excuse was her makeup, I think.
I didn't really get it. Like, John Waters is like, I could see, like, you know, this would be, like, really popular on, like, Japanese girls or something to that effect. Because clearly, the references that we saw in it instantly. And Pearl admitted, it's just like, no.
I feel really cute.
I couldn't be ugly.
I actually was very curious to see what Violet, Miss Fame, and Pearl were going to do to ugly it up. And, yeah, I mean, Violet's, like, nightmare clown tent whatever.
That was the ugliest outfit up there.
Oh, it was
by far. And they were like, kudos to you for even having that.
Yeah, I don't know where that... Did she make that?
I have no idea. I mean, I feel like she could. She seems like she's got the skills. Well, in the Untucked
episode, Ginger made some, like, remark to, I think it was Kennedy, saying that Violet was basically a combination of everyone's, like, a piece of everyone's ugliest look, sort of like a bride does, like, a new blue borrowed bullshit. And she's like, look at those tassels on there. She's like, she stole that from you. And she's like, and then she has these, like, she was just, like, pointing out, like, the sequence that was, like, from someone else's outfit, and she just, like, pieced together a bunch of other people's smaller ugly ideas and put them all into one gown, which led me to believe that she sewed it by hand in, like, that, which actually makes me more impressed than I am bothered by it, but whatever. Either way, that shit was hideous, and I fucking hate clowns, so that was a nightmare for me.
Yeah, I actually loved, I knew that John Waters was going to love it too. I actually loved Miss Fame's dress. Like, I still think it definitely counted as ugly because it was fucking
Why?
ugly.
Because she had chola tears? I did not...
No, it was...
Can you explain this fucking look to me? I
don't know what it was. It was so bizarre, but I genuinely... Like, it looked almost like quilt fabric that she made it out of.
Yeah, she looked like the ghost of Kim Kardashian's dress from the Met Ball that year that she looked like a sofa.
Like, the woman in black...
Sort of, except not scary. Like, a woman in black that I think is going to sing, like, a bad disco ripoff to me.
It was genuinely bizarre. And it was ugly, but it was also such an elegant, like, crazy, like,
it was too put together. Thing. Her and Pearl were too put together to even be considered ugly in any
And then she didn't do anything with it, like,
no pun intended to the fashion thing. But they didn't look... They were not ugly. I was just like... Pearl, at least you own the fact that you were like, fuck it, I don't do ugly, I'm sorry.
Yeah, like, I can't do it. Like, I can't even do
Put
good,
me
bad
in the bottom, too. I get it. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. But Miss Fame, I mean, girl, please. You know brocade ain't ugly. Everybody knows that. It's totally in Vogue. Like, literally, actually, in the pages of Vogue. Pretty sure, again, it's going to be a huge part of a Met Ball Red Gala. And don't tell me you don't fucking know that. I know that you know that. And you know that it's not ugly. So, it was just a weak-ass excuse. And it could have been a chance to, like, redeem how just fucking, oh my god, biblically unfunny you were. Just the entire episode by just owning it and being funny about it. But, I mean,
have that kind of...
Miss Fame, how's your head? Yeah.
Fine. It took her like 20 tries. I'm like, I thought there were even more that we didn't
For a
hear.
half-hearted, shitty response.
I mean, it was genuine comedy when that happened, but it was also so tragic. And, I mean, like I said, like, I was wondering how long she was going to last, because she hadn't even been in the bottom 2 yet. But she hadn't
I was really surprised, but she came close a couple times.
A lot, yeah. She was very close quite a few times, but she had just pulled off enough with her look on the runway and did just well enough in the challenge to really not be in that bottom 2. Even though there was a couple of questionable weeks where I'm like, really, that person's in the bottom 2? Like when Trixie was, but Trixie was back. And you know what? You can't really blame Trixie too much for being in the shadow of Ginger in the main challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Because really, Ginger was like, just with the right makeup and the blacked out teeth and the Lane Bryant undergarments.
When they put those pictures side by side, I was like, holy shit,
seriously,
they look a lot alike.
like channeled Edith Massey. And Edith Massey is a difficult person to channel.
See, it's that sort of like
Ginger's
attention
already
to
kind of
detail that I felt lacked in the lesser performances.
Yes.
It was that sort of...
She really knew her references. She knew exactly what she was going for, what she had to create.
I just thought her and Katya nailed it. I mean, it would have been really hard for me to choose between the two of them. I
kind of wish that Katya and her had done their number together.
Yeah, but I kind of don't even... I don't know. I actually feel conflicted about that because I'd be afraid that they would be too busy trying to compete to be the funniest one in the scene.
But it might have been so much even funnier. Like
maybe, or it could have been another fucking train wreck. I mean, I don't know.
I feel like they got the chops to like make it work.
Yeah, they are seasoned enough to where they wouldn't be
without the other driftwood, like, you know, weighing... Not driftwood, that's totally the wrong analogy. I'm mixing metaphors and similes in the worst possible way ever. But, you know, without all that extra weight, like, dragging them down. Like, I really feel like they have to pull up other people in their groups, usually, you know, and they don't get the credit that they deserve. So it's really, like, them sort of, like... Even though, like, Ginger's won 3 challenges. I mean, granted... Alexis Mateo won 3 challenges a few seasons ago, and she did not win. But she still made it to the finals of the season. So it's, like, obvious that, like, from what we saw from that Edith Massey, that she's going to be in the top 3. But Trixie almost looked like she was back in her shell a little bit this week when she was playing Divine. And it was like, she didn't seem totally sure of what she wanted to do, even though I'm sure she knows who Divine is and exactly what kind of performance she was supposed to give.
Oh, yeah, and she spent the rest of the episode talking about how much she loved John Waters and grew up idolizing Divine and that kind of stuff. I think that what it really came down to, and maybe it's a mistake that Trixie didn't get with Pearl, but I think that, like, straight up, Trixie was intimidated by Ginger the second that they stepped on set.
And intimidated by being Divine, I think, a little bit,
maybe a little bit, had too many expectations for herself that were unrealistic and were probably not even being considered by anyone else but whatever was going through her head. But I have to say, I felt like she kind of shrugged back a little bit because I think Ginger kind of overpowered a lot of it and she got intimidated.
And it took her a little while to, like, really, like, warm up. And, like, because by the end of it,
it seemed
she
great.
was there and she totally was there.
You could tell that was, like, the 8th, 9th take or something.
You know, like, she was, I think there was a little bit of a block there. And it's just so sad because, like I said, like, because she actually, like, that video that she released, you know, when we talked about it last week,
funny.
Of her, like, you know, that part of our audition video, that got a lot of controversy. Like, there was people who were really upset and people who thought it was really hilarious and never the twain shall meet. But, I mean, like, she has that kind of power to start those kinds of discussions, you know, for better or for worse. I think for better, you know, because, frankly, you have to really, no pun intended, but you really have to know that history to get the jokes that she was telling. And I didn't think that they were offensive to the story or the history. It's like, really, no. It's like, she's creating humor through tragedy, which is really what every gay comic and like, drag queen, gay comedians, any of them are really doing.
Well, that's what any good comic does,
They're creating humor through
period. Gay, drag queen, straight or not. This is why a lot of comics I find them unfunny because they're not finding... It's like what Joan Rivers said.
They don't have problems.
You find the humor in things that are sad, and that comes from a genuine place. And if you do it right, it reaches the people that get that message that can relate to you. And I think that Trixie, dressed up as Trixie, or as Dude Trixie with a huge package, is a true comic. And I think that hilarious.
It's like don't hold back, Trixie.
Her and Katya, I think, are just like two true comics deep down inside, and like could carry a show. Like I would listen to I would follow them to do a lot of things because I trust their comedy and their humor because it's always on point and it's never if you're offended by it, I'm sorry, you're just like too sensitive. I think that they do everything with like a mindful eye.
You know, that's what drag is supposed to do. And they're not trying to be
disrespectful whatsoever.
It's supposed to be over the top. It's supposed to, like, take the ridiculousness and, like, play the ridiculousness up
well, it's part of Trixie's
more.
character, too, which I think she plays up really well. But I was kind of... I based on what we saw from what Ginger and Trixie were running through, I did have high hopes because I did like their pairing, and I was like, oh, that's unexpected. Just kind of like how I felt about Kennedy and Katya getting together. I was like, well, good. You're not using Ginger again, so let's see how this plays out.
It was kind of shooting fish in a barrel, that one. I mean, the egg lady is so much win for me. Like,
that's why, I had high hopes from the rehearsal because it looked like she was really committing to it. It looked really funny just from how they were staging it. And then when she got on the set, it was just kind of like, I don't know. Ginger took the comment that Lucien made about how she was being too sweet and, like, really kind of, like, played into that. Where, I don't know if Trixie was, like, too busy staying in her own head to hear some of, like, the feedback, because I think it would have brought her out of her shell maybe a little bit faster instead of by the 8th or 9th take, where I thought that the end was great. It sold me on the whole thing. I thought that they were insanely ridiculous together. But I can't help but have the vision of Michelle Visage yelling off camera, fucking crazier, do it weirder, just keep going.
You're divine. She even said that, like, you're divine. Like, why aren't you, like, what is wrong?
So a part of me couldn't help but feel that, like, Trixie was maybe getting shoved into that finish line.
Maybe. It may very well be.
And maybe with, like, a more supportive person like Pearl or even Katya, for fuck's sake, I don't know. She would have not been as closed off at the very beginning.
Perhaps.
But either way, she was fine, and I loved her Romeo and Michelle high school reunion prom dress. It was pretty good. But I do have to agree with Michelle. I was like, anytime that there's leopard, I'm like, oh, that's cute, kind of.
Yeah.
It's like my initial reaction, because I do like, who doesn't like leopard? Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's cute. Why is the strap falling off? It's so cute, but the strap.
I'm just going to tie it on a knot and keep it up. That's all I can do. But, yeah, it was... I was kind of thinking, like, maybe she'll be, like, the first queen to have been brought back who makes the top 3. But she needs to, like, pull it together.
Well, so we should actually backtrack just a little bit before we sign off. Talk about Ru turning the judging panel over to the queens on the runway and asking them who they thought deserved to be there.
Oh my god! And
that, of course, always results in blood. But it was a
seemed to take it well.
She did.
She did not, like, she didn't get, like, a stank face. She just looked kind of a little bit sad. But, it was like people weren't really being too shady. They were being honest, I thought. And really, we all felt the same way.
Well, it wasn't for shady or mean reasons. They weren't, like, attacking her character. All,
yeah. Which has maybe helped her take it better. But it's still got to be hard to take to be the one that, like,
literally
every person except for one
Violet
names. And Violet, Violet had a point. Like, Violet has a keen eye that you should not discount just because she's youthful and a tad bitchy. A tad bitchy. I'm being generous there, apparently. But
I'm complimenting you now.
I tell people, I have to do this thing where I tell people that so nobody gets confused. Still love that. I use that line like every single day. Just like I'm like, that's not a read.
But I thought that Violet actually had some pretty valid points. And so I do think next episode is definitely make or break for Trixie, because if they weren't staring down Trixie's neck and wondering what she's up to and is she really bringing it, then they're definitely going to do it now, and Trixie's going to be definitely aware of it.
I don't want that to be. Trixie, don't let it be.
No, I don't think Trixie's the type, well, hopefully, who knows under these kind of circumstances, would be the type to let it all kind of like pile on too much. But we'll see what happens next week.
Because maybe the reason...
Because Fame ended up taking everybody's critiques, and in the end, after she lost the lip sync for Your Life, told the camera that she is now contemplating acting classes, which honestly is not the worst thing, and I think that that's probably the best sort of nugget of advice that you can pull from having everyone pile on you for being one-dimensional.
She kept it classy, that Space Queen did.
She did.
I was pleased to see that. I
hope I see her in a David Bowie music video soon.
I know, she is clearly meant to be seen, and hopefully someday really heard.
Did you watch that video I sent you that she made, that music video?
I didn't have a chance to watch it yet. Which one was it again?
I forget what it's called, but it's like her new music video, and it's really weird. It's super
good,
weird.
good. That's
I don't want to
what we
spoil
like.
it for you, but if you haven't watched it, I'm sure if you just Google Miss Fame music video, you'll be able to find it. It's probably like I've seen some weird the part where she's in the supermarket being sexy was very Stepford Wives, and I felt very uncomfortable because she was giving a cucumber a hand job, which who doesn't joke about that? But it was just so awkward. I think she was trying to use those green compost bags that you put your veggies in before you get rung up as a condom on. It was very fucking weird.
Rubber doll.
And Miss Fame, you are beautiful, but you cannot sing. Please just take a fucking acting class and just do yourself that favor.
Well, to be honest, how many of these drag queens can really sing? Some of them can, but not many of them. Ginger Minj apparently can sing, as we've heard. Obviously with a limited range, but she can sing.
Well, yeah, she chain smokes. There's only so much she can do about that right now.
That's what gives her that rich tone. That rich whiskey voice tone.
Oh, my
goodness. So, yeah, I think she's definite top 3. Definite, easily...
Ginge
Minj, top 3. I still feel like Katya, it's almost guaranteed a spot if she just keeps it up. There's always the possibility that she could fall, but I feel like I see her in there. And it's really this other, Trixie, Violet, Pearl. I feel like Pearl's run is going to end soon. But Violet does have the chance, I think, to make the top 3. Because, if Trixie doesn't really pull herself back up to the standards that we know she holds high for herself. I'm hoping that she makes it because I think she's hilarious. But, maybe in their future, we will see Trixie in all those, Peaches Christ shows in San Francisco at the Castro Theater, doing all sorts. Who knows what she would do? I can't imagine what movies it would be. Jinx Monsoon and Ben de la Creme always come back for something. Chad Michaels has been there for, a Witches of Eastwick thing. Obviously, he was Cher. Who else would Chad Michaels be? But I'm trying to think who Trixie would be in one of these shows. I don't know. Next is Drop Dead Gorgeous. Ben de la Creme and Jinx Monsoon are doing Drop Dead Gorgeous here. But, there's a future for her in those kinds of shows that I think she would sell really well, and I just want to see some more of it on this show. So please bring it. But I guess that's all we have for this week. I think my voice is run hoarse, not from sucking too much dick, but from talking. Because John Waters just anything John Waters excites me this much, I just can't help it. Seriously, when it all was happening, the stage scream was just itching to emerge from my throat.
Well, I stage screamed when no one fucking did the goddamn splits at the end of the Lip Sync for Your Life. It was a perfect moment.
Can Pearl do the splits?
I don't know, but at least fucking try. She hit the ground on her knees after fucking Rue was and let the music play. I was like, now is not the goddamn time you do that. You should have already done that to the song. It was a perfect ending. Come on! Just because Miss Fame was just twirling around in that cupcake dress, it made me nauseous. I just needed to see someone do some forward momentum. God.
Next week, who knows what
holds in
store for us.
Yes. Oh yeah, their flip off moment was real though.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. That was a great moment.
That was classic.
One that we'll remember forever.
Well,
I must say good night, good day, good morning, whatever it is when you're reading this. It is our Auf Wiedersehen.
Reading it.
Whenever
you decide to play this back, and whenever you've caught up with the latest
RuPaul. I'm confused by mixed media.
Oh my god. The internet is a scary place. How does Wi-Fi work?
I don't know. It doesn't work so well here.
At least in this deep corner, no.
No, in my house.
Oh.
But nonetheless, yes, I guess you should look for this either on our YouTube page, GAMbIT Digital on YouTube. We can listen to all of our podcasts there. You can subscribe to us for free on iTunes. We are available on iTunes. And upcoming, a movie blog that we will be putting together shortly. Hopefully to have a first episode of that soon. And of course, you can read our articles. Our reviews are always posted on GAMbIT Magazine. And I am on Instagram and Twitter at @SomeMiraculous. I'm actually starting to get followers now, so maybe you should check it out.
You have an audience now.
Sort of. People actually favorite things. Lucian favorited my tweet. Every time I say something about it, he favorites it. Or responds. Or he responds, and then my, like, oh, and then my heart explodes all over again.
Well, until next week, you can always find us on GAMbIT, on our Twitter. You can find me on Twitter. Do the work. I don't care. Anyway.
Yes, you do. You're such a liar. You care so much. You were, like, measuring those analytics like crazy.
What's clout again?
I don't know.
Isn't Twitter clout a thing?
It means goodbye.
Anyway, until next week.
Bye.
Bye.